Hey friend, in this video we are talking about my personal absolute favorite way to use AI as a songwriter, and it's not even for songwriting, it's actually for arranging instead. Let's talk about it. So in my opinion, the most game-changing way to use AI in your songwriting is not for songwriting at all, but for arranging your songs, whether that be for the recording process or figuring out the arrangement with your band. For the most part, this is going to be helpful for recording your songs, which these days we all should be doing as songwriters. We're going to use 3 prompts just to show you the power that AI can have. And we're specifically going to use Grok for this one because I found that Grok is much better than ChatGPT when it comes to arranging questions. And we're doing arranging here, so that's why Grok over ChatGPT. So the first prompt we're going to give Grok is that we want to write an EP that centers around desert symbolism. And then we want to ask, okay, what are some instruments I should use in the songs in order to get that desert sound and feel? Let's say it's a 5-song EP. You want it to sound like the central imagery of the EP, which in this case is the desert. How would we accomplish this? Let's see what Grok tells us. Awesome. So right away, it gives you a whole bunch of instrument ideas, some of which you may have never even heard of before, and other ones that you just might not think about. But as soon as it's there, it's kind of obvious. So didgeridoo, at least for me, is the one that really stands out because didgeridoo, first of all, sounds really awesome. The name, ironically, is super lame, but the actual sound of it is super, super cool and honestly does evoke the sort of feel of the desert. And then other things like, honestly, the oud or whatever that first instrument is, I'm not even sure I've heard of that. I've heard of the sitar, and that's certainly a good idea. And then acoustic guitar specifically says nylon or steel, which is a great call out that with something like nylon strings, it actually would sound more desert-like. And then harmonica, that's kind of a different side of the desert, right? That's a little bit more like out west desert in the United States and a little less, I don't know, Egyptian desert or something than, say, didgeridoo would sound, even though obviously didgeridoo is Australian and not Egyptian, but it's sort of different desert vibes, which, by the way, just as a bonus thing here, don't get trapped with thinking that there's only one, say, ocean vibe or only one space vibe. When it comes to the ocean, the vibe of like the Hawaiian beach and the vibe of like a cold Norwegian beach is totally different. They both are the ocean, but the vibe and the instruments you would use to sort of evoke a Hawaiian beach versus evoking a Norwegian beach or maybe a beach in Upper Maine or Canada or something would be very different. Don't get stuck with thinking that, oh, there's only one desert vibe or whatever. This is something, by the way, if you did come into it with just sort of a specific desert vibe in mind, not even thinking you could have another one, you might go into it thinking, okay, Western US, and you were already thinking harmonica and acoustic guitar. And then you see things like didgeridoo and sitar, and you're like, oh, actually, that's a cooler route that I would rather go. And then let's ask a follow-up question about what the actual tracks in our DAW should be. You know, how many rhythm guitars, what other instruments, things like that. So what a great breakdown it gave right away. And by the way, of course, we could have said, okay, I don't really like the idea of a cajon. I don't really like the idea of a harmonica. Let's go more with the didgeridoo kind of vibe instead of the harmonica vibe. We could have said stuff like that, right? So admittedly, it kind of seems to assume at first that we want to use all of the things that it said, and that almost certainly would not be the case. But what we get is sort of an idea of what role each of these things could be in, and then it even gives you an idea of like record the rhythm guitar in mono, and then apparently the second rhythm guitar do stereo. So again, you have to think for yourself. Don't just outsource your thinking and your brain to AI. That's not what AI is for. AI is more of a partner to discuss things with. It's like a friend you get to spitball with at any time of day, and the friend just happens to have access to all of the different knowledge and isn't going to get ticked at you if you talk to him at 2 o'clock in the morning. So really that's, I think, it's like a collaborator is the better way to view AI. But this is some really great stuff that it's immediately helping with. And I really appreciate that it even does some of the ors here, harmonica or didgeridoo. So it's saying harmonica for a lonesome wanderer feel or didgeridoo for a deep resonant hum using specific sections. That's a great call out that you probably would want to go one or the other. And certainly at the same time, you probably would want to just choose one or the other because they don't evoke the same feel. Now, maybe you would want to combine them. But again, this is going to be a great place to start if you're just trying to make an EP and you want to have a certain sound, or you want to evoke sort of a central imagery, you're trying to figure out how to get that sound. And by the way, we can ask another follow-up question, because maybe you're thinking, okay, Joseph, who cares? Because I don't know I've never even seen a sitar. I don't even know what a didgeridoo is. I don't know what a djembe is. I think that's how you say that. But here's the thing. You can then ask, okay, I don't know anyone with any of those instruments. Can you find some good free, let's try that, VSTs for those instruments you recommended? So it's still thinking, but there you go. Right away, right? It gives you an idea if it can find a free one, and then it gives you alternatives. Sitar, okay, here's, I guess, a free one, I would assume, because it didn't specifically say it didn't find free ones. So it found some for you. So you can record it just using your keyboard or just programming it or whatever, and you don't actually need to know anybody who has these instruments and knows how to play the instruments and all that. So it can even help you with that part, which for the modern songwriter is just incredibly helpful. Because if you're going to record at home and you want to keep things not too expensive, for the most part, for things like this, you're probably going to want to use virtual instruments. You're not going to actually hire a string quartet to record strings. You're going to use string VSTs. They sound amazing. In most songs, they're not so front and center that the slight imperfections of those even matter. Which, by the way, if you saw the interview with Hans Zimmer and Rick Beato, Hans Zimmer even talked about apparently in some movies, the fake orchestras that he uses, the VSTs, sometimes the director preferred that over the sound of the real orchestra, or they ran out of time and they didn't get to record a real orchestra. And I bet none of us even know which movies they are, right? We can't even tell. So virtual instruments have come a long way. Of course, when you go free, some of them are really great, some of them aren't. But the fact that AI could help you figure out what instruments you might want based on the vibe you're going for, and then tell you where to actually get those sounds for free, is a huge game changer. And for the third and last prompt, I wanted to show you how powerful it can be for even developing your sound as an artist. So in this case, basically I'm asking it to give me the instruments and how to get the sort of sound and feel for Breaking Benjamin if Breaking Benjamin sort of wrote songs that evoked the desert, such as an Egyptian sound. And I said, think Starset, but instead of sci-fi Breaking Benjamin, because Starset, reductionist of course, but Starset is kind of like sci-fi Breaking Benjamin, or Breaking Benjamin meets Hans Zimmer with sci-fi leanings, or something like that. So we're saying instead of sci-fi Breaking Benjamin, which is kind of like Starset, give me ancient Egypt Breaking Benjamin. So let's see what it comes up with. So right away, it nailed the electric guitars, drop-tuned and distorted. If you want something to sound anything adjacent to Breaking Benjamin, it is absolutely essential. Electric guitars that are drop-tuned and distorted. So we got that right. And then oud or saz adds authentic Middle Eastern string texture to evoke desert nomads and ancient courts. Perfect. Ney flute evokes the haunting, breathy sound of desert winds or ancient rituals. Use synthesizers for atmospheric depth, evoking heat waves, vast dunes, or ancient mysticism. Use lush synth pads with slow attack for ambient washes. Look how deep it can go. And this is, we can ask follow-up questions, right? Deduk, I think that's how you say that. Perfect. That's absolutely perfect for this sort of sound. And then it gives arrangement and production tips for track structure and mixing and dynamics, system rendering, textures, VST recommendations. It's even preempting the VST recommendations. Look at that. How great is that? And then it even talks about sort of DAW setup stuff. And then an example song concept. How cool. Sands of Anubis. That is incredibly on the nose. Anubis is easily top 2 ancient Egyptian god, just objectively, right? Anubis is awesome. I mean, I'd go raw in Anubis, personally, as like 1 and 2, but anyway, besides the point. Also, just in general, ancient Egypt stuff, like everything ancient Egypt is super cool. It's just so cool. It's so much cooler than like almost all the other ancient stuff. It's not even funny. But anyway, it even gives an idea of what to do in the intro versus the verse. Huge distorted guitars, soaring vocal hook. So, I mean, this title is lame and way on the nose, which just in general, when it comes to lyric stuff and titles, AI does not do very well. It can be good for generating ideas, and then you come up with the actually good title and actually good lyrics off of it, because again, it's a good collaboration tool. But the title actually being super garbage is, and trying way too hard and way too on the nose, does not surprise me at all. But that actually connects with why this is my favorite way to use AI. This is a fantastic way to be able to develop your sound as an artist. Like this last example, right? If you as an artist wanted to be Breaking Benjamin or Starset, but instead of sci-fi Breaking Benjamin, which is kind of what Starset is, you want it to be like ancient Egypt Breaking Benjamin instead. Or maybe you want to be the piano version of John Denver, or you want to be the piano version of James Taylor or something. Or you can go way deeper, right? You want to be the piano version of John Denver if it were modernized and it sounded like some of the orchestra was arranged by John Williams, right? You can get really specific and it'll help you figure out how to sort of get that sound. And the fact that it also can help you with like the actual tracks that you would have in your arrangement, and it can help you figure out based on the sound that you want to get what instruments to use. You also can do the same thing with artists, right? Hey, I want to write a song that sounds exactly like early 2000s Coldplay. What track should I have? This is a fantastic way to use AI. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, something else you'll probably find helpful is my free cheat sheet on 20 different ways to start writing a song. Maybe you haven't started writing your songs, or you need to start writing more songs. Sometimes you just find yourself stuck in the same rut of doing the same thing over and over again, finding yourself getting the same results that you're kind of only somewhat happy with. Be sure to check out this free guide. It will give you 20 different ways to start writing a song. That's a great way to change up your sound a little bit and get inspired in different ways, because a song you come up with based off of reverse engineering a song from a cool song title is going to be very different than one that you started with an acoustic guitar versus one you started with a bass line versus one where you wrote the melody first. So be sure to check that out. It'll be super helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. I'll talk to you in the next one.